Green? Yeah, it's not Notre Dame Day.
I know.
It's always Notre Dame Day, right?
Are we good? All right. We will call to order the October 21st, 2025 meeting of the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. And I will note that we have a quorum with 3 members present in person and 1 virtually through Microsoft Teams. Next item on the agenda, the disposition of minutes from the October 7th, 2025 meeting.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a copy of the minutes of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission of October 7th, 2025. They are the most extensive and longest and most accurate minutes I've ever seen. 11 pages. I move acceptance of minutes as proposed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, prosecutor's recommendations.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a report from the prosecutor indicating that this last period of time, there were 43 alcohol and tobacco fines collected for a total of $30,900. 3 are worthy of note. First, from Vigo County, Terre Haute, the American Legion there was a violation of retail to retail sales of alcohol. They have found evidence that they were buying from a local retailer. This is the 5th violation. They've agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and 3-day suspension of the alcohol permit. The next 2 have to do with tobacco. The first is from Fort Wayne, Indiana, at Indy Smoke Time. There was an inspection and located 35 suspected counterfeit Zyn products, both on display and storage, and they were confirmed. The violation was written for nuisance. They agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and $10-day suspension of the tobacco certificate. And finally, from Greencastle, Indiana, Rain Smoke House conducted an investigation there, and the officer found the on-duty clerk to be under the age of 21. This was the 2nd time officers found a violation there. And the parties have agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 3-day suspension of the tobacco certificate. I move acceptance of the prosecutor's report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Sorry, I should slow down. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, consideration of applications. There are 457 renewal applications.
Madam Chair, fellow members of the commission, I incorporate by reference this list of 457 applications for renewal, which have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by said staff with authority of the commission. I hereby move for approval of the same pending any needed escrow hearings. Further move for inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 55 new and transfer applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 55 permit applications for a new permit, bless you, or applications for changes in ownership or location or both of existing permits. Those have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by a commissioner. I hereby move for approval of the same pending a final floor plan approval by the state excise police and an escrow hearing if needed. Further move for inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, 67 catering applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 67 permit applications for catering. Hereby move for approval of the same and inclusion of this list as part of today's minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, 4 direct wine shipper applications.
And last but not least, I incorporate by reference this list of 4 new and renewal direct wine shippers permits. Hereby move for approval of the same and further move for inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Waivers of fees for letters of extension.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received information regarding waivers of fees for letters of extension. I move acceptance of those.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for discussion. The first item for discussion is RR 4536364 Playos Nightclub LLC. This is a renewal of the local board voting 3-1 to approve for 1 year, and an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from Lake County. It's been on our agenda for a couple of times now. They have a violation. They needed a corrective action plan. They also had problems with employees not having permits or training. We needed proof of those. Now we have received an updated corrective action plan, and we have received what appears to be all the employee permits and training. So those items have been addressed. But something new has come to light just recently. We've received new information of possible problems. Number one is at the Secretary of State's office, you have to have a registration. And that registration lists a different name as being associated with the business than the owner that we have registered with our records. There is also a flyer that we've received that the business is going to be holding an event. I think it's November 1st or sometime soon. And that flyer seems to indicate that they're going to be holding an event that is contrary to testimony that was given at the local board that these type of events would not be held any further at that business. I will note that this business has had problems in the past, resulting in 3 people who died from a shooting incident and 3 who were injured from what appears to be an event that's like what would be held in early November. Due to the possible Secretary of State's registration, which may be false ownership, which leads us to possible a manager at the bar that we see on social media. If somebody else is claiming to be the owner and manager of this place, different than what we have in the flyer. I'm going to ask that we continue this so that we can look into this new information that's just been presented and see what we want to do with it, and continue that to the November 4th commission meeting. And that is my motion.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
If I may, I'd like to comment on that. In preparing for the meeting today, I am looking at extensively. Commissioner Madden indicated that there is an updated corrective action plan. There was a prior action plan, corrective action plan called a safety plan. And I reviewed that extensively. I found that there are 24 occasions where the word should is used in that plan. There are 6 where the words would or will be, but there are only 5 that indicate that we must or ensure. In other words, there are suggestions in a safety plan that they should do things, and I find that totally inappropriate. I mentioned it at the last meeting. They have submitted a new corrective action plan. I would only point out for those listening that the corrective action plans look like 2 different places. There are extensive safety plan measures, including making sure that nothing interferes with the exit plan, that there is a safety plan in case of an emergency in the building, among many other things. And the new corrective action plan hardly mentions any of those things. I was frankly more impressed with the first than the second but the second addresses very few. And the first safety plan, I would ask them again to look at a corrective action plan that requires and makes commitments to do things and more extensively than the current corrective action plan. I agree with the continuance, but this first safety plan covered a whole lot of territory that made me comfortable with the operation of the facility. The second, though, doesn't nearly go as extensive, and I'm concerned that by switching the two, they are making a commitment not to do the things that are listed in the first. So just a comment. Thank you.
I had maybe a possible amendment to my motion.
Sorry.
I think I would like to ask, legal to send them a letter, about that recent flyer and find out what kind of event that is and why it's an event that's okay to hold when you've stated it to us, to the local board, that you would not hold those kinds of events. Like, what makes this different? Because from what we've seen from the flyer, it looks like very similar to the events she was holding when there were problems. Excuse me. Which led to the big event.
We received some of this information this morning, which wasn't enough time to thoroughly review it.
Into it.
But I'd also like to give the permittee an opportunity to respond. However, I'm gonna vote in favor of the continuance, but I'm getting to the point where maybe a remand and a hearing with specific topics to the local board is more appropriate than, so I'm voting in favor of this continuance because we just received the information this morning. But if it continues that we have lingering unanswered questions, that we're not getting the information back in these filings, then maybe remand and a hearing is best for questions to be asked, answers to be given in a quicker time frame than continuing it meeting to meeting. But for today, because we just got that information, I'm in favor of the continuance.
Okay, I'll just leave my motion as is.
Or I did.
Oh,
I think it's fine. I
Yeah.
think we do need to ask for the information and allow them to respond. I guess my point is just, eventually we have to do something with this permit.
I second the amended
okay.
motion
Yeah.
as made.
Yeah, if we could ask our legal counsel to send them the letter, about that flyer, that would be great.
All right.
And that's amended motion.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is EL 4932456 VP 51 Incorporated. This is a renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny.
Yes, this comes to us from Marion County. They had violations for selling after hours. They had 2 violations in 23 and 24 for serving minors. They stated that the employees have been fired. They have 4 employees overall. I will notice that the violation that they have for serving minors also included selling nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a substance that is not legal in the state of Indiana. It cannot be sold. It's a harmful thing, and it's being sold to people and youths in our state. We need to keep getting the message out that nitrous oxide should not be sold or used by anyone, especially in Indiana. It was stated that the owner of this business has some 40 other locations. He does not actively manage this business, and he was not aware that nitrous oxide was being sold there, and wasn't aware that the violation included the nitrous oxide sale. The local board voted 4-0 to deny. I see no reason to overturn that. I move that we uphold the denial of the permit for DL 4932456 BP 51 Inc.
second,
Second.
Been
third,
moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would just note that in January of 2025, the commission sent all tobacco certificate permit holders, including the tobacco certificate holder, here, letters notifying them about nitrous oxide. At the time, it was illegal to sell for purposes of intoxication. Since then, the law, we've unfortunately seen too many of these situations where people sell it inappropriately. The law has been updated that, this premises would be prohibited from selling, any flavored nitrous oxide for any purpose. So I would just note that we did everything we could to put permittees on notice if they choose not to operate their businesses, according to that. Also, he said that the manager was hiring or was, making the purchases, but we don't have a manager listed. So, possibly another issue there. But just another reminder to everyone listening that nitrous oxide is dangerous. We don't find it at all appropriate that any business would think it was okay to sell for purposes of intoxication. So I'm going to vote in favor of upholding the denial. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is RR 49044451 D&E Groves LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny.
This one is also here in Indianapolis. They have had quite a few violations. The three recent ones are from 2023. Violation for signage for employee permits and failure to remove ashtrays. In 2024, again, no employee permits, public nuisance, sales to Intox, so it got worse the next year. And then in 25, they have violation for gaming, no employee permits, again, for the third time, 3 years in a row. Sales to Intox, second year in a row. Smoking, no manager's questionnaire. They are not following the laws and regulations of the commission. They do appear to be a public nuisance. And the local board voted 4-0 to deny, and I move that we uphold the denial of the renewal of the permit for RR 49044451 D&E Groves LLC.
second,
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye,
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 493998 Fusion Incorporated. This is a renewal with the local board voting 3-1 to deny.
Yes, this is also here in Indianapolis. They had a violation and they were up for renewal. There were several remonstrators who came in, on this business. I'll talk about the remonstrators first. They were from the Indianapolis Police Department. The Indianapolis Police Department had gave a number of police runs that they have had to this business and around this business. They were for all kinds of problems related to batteries, thefts, all kinds of problems. The second person who let me state on the Indianapolis Police Department, some of the calls that were made that they did talk about at the local board did tie directly to the business. It was unclear if all of those directly tied to the business or not. They were maybe outside the business or around the business, and didn't seem to have a direct nexus tied exactly to the business. But there were several that were tied to the business. The other remonstrators were Christ Church Cathedral and the Downtown Indiana Neighborhood Alliance also came in and remonstrated against. The permittee and their attorney did do a nice job of listing some of the things that the business is doing to straighten up after a violation. They did state that they are changing the pours from 1.5 ounce to 1. The building is a 2-floor establishment. They talked about having better security on the 2nd floor to control smoking and possible smoking of illegal substances, which appears to have been a problem in the past. They changed their hours so that they're closing slightly earlier. Legal hours they're now closing at 2:30. They're having no re-entry. They updated electrical problems so that the camera can run consistently. They established a dress code. They stopped using promoters. They're using off-duty enforcement officers. Those are all wonderful and great things, but it did kind of happen after they had had violations and problems. Since the local board hearing, there were some other letters that were submitted at the local board who were against this business being renewed. Since the local board hearing, their attorney did send us several letters from businesses right there in the neighborhood and others that appeared to be a little further out that were in favor of the renewal of this business. And I'll just note that we did receive those for the record. The local board did vote 3-0 to deny, and I don't see a reason.
3-1.
3-1 to deny, and I don't find it arbitrary or capricious, and I'm gonna move that we uphold the denial of the renewal for RR 49-39978 Fusion Inc.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to comment, as the commissioners know, and many of the individuals here, these are reports from the local board and their action and activity at the local board hearings. This one, as previously indicated, was extensive in terms of the information provided, not only the runs, but other matters, the documents submitted both by the remonstrators and by the permittee were extensive. I reviewed all of those. One thing struck me though, as I was watching and listening to I think there's like an hour, 45-minute hearing before the local board. There was a statement made about health requirements. And I've always served on the commission understanding that those permittees who do have food and serve food are required not only follow the rules and regulations of the health department, but for safety reasons. And there was mention made that the health rules had been sunsetted. In other words, under 905 IAC 19, that those had been sunsetted. And I looked at it and I found that under 905 IAC 19, 1 through 4 have been sunsetted. But section 5 has not been sunsetted, and that has to do with compliance with the health requirements. I didn't want this to be unstated that the health requirements are subject to consideration by this commission on a permit renewal. I'm not persuaded, based upon the information that I reviewed, that is substantive in terms of the other things. But I do want to make clear that violation of the health rules of the Department of Health can result in a suspension or revocation of the permit. Again, in this case, that is not reason, not substantial in terms of it, but I didn't want to go unstated that health requirements for serving of food, for the safety and well-being of the patrons is a requirement of a permit. And I just mentioned that. Again, that is 905 IAC 1-9-5 is not sunset. It's still subject to enforcement. But unfortunately, I think it's not a fine. It can be either by this commission, either suspension or revocation of the license, which I find fascinating. There still can be penalties under the health department rules, but not under our permit rules. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
I think that was one that we just had open for comment for readoption and didn't receive any comments, so it's moving forward
Okay.
in readoption right now. Any further comments?
Yes, I'm going to vote as the president of local board, President Graves voted, and that is I would vote for a 1-year renewal. I know we had these remonstrators. I'm concerned that at the time they wrote their letters and gathered their information to remonstrate, they may have been unduly influenced by a lot of the runs and such that IMPD included in their binder, which have no relationship to this permittee other than the fact they may have been attending the business, they may have been customers of the business, but the ones particularly about thefts of weapons from cars, break-ins to cars while people were, some of whom at least were apparently visiting the business. I have to also agree with President Graves and others' comments that it appears that the Indiana legislature has decided that everybody in Indiana should own a gun without needing a permit. So the fact that all these people have cars with guns in them probably shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. But again, I don't see a relationship between the permittee doing any violations, excuse me, and these break-ins. It sounds to me like the permittee has done a lot of work to try to come in compliance with not only the rules and regulations, but also to operate a safe business. So my vote would be for a 1-year renewal.
I tend to agree that I can't find fault with the bar for the guns being in the car. That seems to be a situation where perhaps security for the bar is working. People are not bringing the guns into the bar, which is something we certainly would not want. I will note there was also a report of the landlord attempting to make a bribe to a fire marshal, and I don't give weight to that against the permittee here. We did receive the letters of support. I noted that my count was that 5 were either neighbors living in the neighborhood or in the immediate neighborhood or owning businesses in the immediate neighborhood. 11 were not. I did find concerning the reports of fights at the location, especially delayed reports, multiple from hospital where people were reporting that they blacked out or needed stitches. Certainly that's concerning. And it seemed like many of them or all of them were reports made by the individuals, not by the bar. For whatever that's worth. And then I was also concerned that the most recent report was September 20th of 2025 relating to a fatal DUI. If today's decision is appealed, perhaps there will be a completed investigation into that. My hope is that, as testified to, the cameras were properly working. And so there can be a more thorough investigation into the over-service than we were able to complete, or that excise was able to complete on the last over-service investigation. So a lot of information here. I don't see a reason to overturn the local board, as arbitrary, capricious, abuse of discretion. And so that will be my vote today to uphold. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries 3-1 to uphold. Next, item for discussion is RR 4936287 Taqueria La Chilla LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to approve.
This one also comes to us from Indianapolis. I'll note that they do not have any violations. They were up for renewal. They did have a remonstrator. The case was continued so they could get the owner and the remonstrator at the same hearing. The remonstrator spoke at length about potential zoning problems, stating that they did not have the proper variance. I will also note that this permit was issued several years ago, so this was up for renewal. There was nothing brought to our attention when this was being issued that there could have been a zoning problem. It was just now a renewal coming up when they've already had the permit and been operating them for a while. The individual who was remonstrating against the renewal did feel that that zoning was a problem and that the local board and the commission could take care of that. We do not issue zoning or zoning variances. We don't make those rulings on zoning. We don't have any other paperwork that's been presented that shows that they are not properly zoned. The business did in October of 2020, when they were getting their permit, they did issue a proper zoning notice to us. And I will just note that after the local board hearing, we did receive notice, a communication from the administrator of the Bureau of Property Safety and Maintenance Services, that there are 2 old variances that exist for this business, allowing it to be a restaurant. So I think the local board did the right thing hearing from the remonstrator. I think the remonstrator may have gotten some bad information somewhere. If there is other information, the proper zoning office needs to bring it to our attention. And with that, I move that we grant the renewal for RR 4936287 Taqueria La Chilla LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I will just note, I added the email to the permit record, the email confirming the 2 former variances for a restaurant to the permit record for this permit, so that those will be there in the future if any questions arise. Not seeing any other discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is RR 4540006 Eileen Butcher. This matter comes on following a denial of escrow.
Yes, this permit was issued in Lake County in September, on September the 15th of 2023. It did go into escrow. It was not ready to be used. They did fail to appear for their, so when it went into escrow, it goes in for 2 years, and that was until September 15th of 25. They needed to appear to get escrow renewed. Excuse me. They were before us on August the 26th. They did fail to appear for that escrow hearing. Someone from the ATC called them on September the 3rd to make them aware that they needed to appear on the September 23rd escrow hearing, or their escrow would be denied and possible permit problems. They said they would appear. They did not appear on September the 23rd, so second failure to appear. And now the permit is before us to deny the permit, since escrow has already been denied. And I move that we deny the permit for RR 45-40006 Eileen Butcher. And I'll note there's an underline of 45-40005. It's an underlined beer permit.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is MM 4530646 18th Street Brewery LLC. This matter comes on with a request to reactivate the permit.
This is an artisan distiller's permit. I'll note that these are not operated on the quota system. Anybody can get one of these anytime they want to apply and meet all the requirements. This was issued in April of 22. They expired in April of 24. Due to lack of renewal and information to us, we did make it dead on November 20th of 2024. They are now hired an attorney. They have now asked to reactivate the permit. I'm going to move that we allow the reactivation. I don't like to normally see these on a dead permit, but just noting that it doesn't, that these are not on quota and anybody can get them at any time. I'm going to move that we allow the reactivation for MM 4530646 18th Street Brewery LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just say I'm going to oppose it. We give lots of notice to people that their permits are expiring, that they're going to be made dead. And this one was, we followed up on what we promised would happen. We made it dead 11 months ago. And now all of a sudden they want to reactivate it. I don't want to encourage more of this to happen. People need to get their act together and either be serious about holding the permit or not. So I would vote no.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm going to vote in favor of the motion since these are not on quota. And sort of selfishly for the commission, the renewal application is less work than a new application. But again, I'm influenced mostly by this not being on quota, so they weren't blocking someone else from having it. But I don't disagree with the statements there. Any further discussion?
I
No, ma'am.
will, go ahead, Mark.
I just said no, ma'am. No further discussion from me. So
I just want to say I agree with both the motion and the comments by Commissioner Jones. I would only tell permit holders that they run the risk that they won't be made live again. But I agree, we go through all this struggle to notify the paperwork, the computer work, and then 11 months later, they decide that maybe they want to do this. I find that unacceptable, and we should not get to the point where we routinely do this. On the other hand, I'm willing to make an exception here, so I'm going to vote yes.
All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
no.
Motion carries. Next item is RR 4939282 Ice Bar and Lounge LLP. This matter comes on for an extension request. It was set at our last meeting and we continued it indicating that we had just received information that the owner of Ice Bar and Lounge was issued a violation at another location recently, and we wanted an opportunity to review that violation for determination of severity, compliance with the law, those matters. So I'll open this for discussion.
Yes, this comes to us from Marion County. And as our chair stated, right before our last meeting, we did get this notice from Excise that the owner of Ice Bar and Lounge has received a citation, a notice of violation at a different business, which is Bar Group LLC, RR 4988385. And when the notice of violation was issued, she stated that in February or March, she started operating that bar group. They're not on a manager's questionnaire. They received a violation for several things. No manager's questionnaire, unauthorized sales, cessation of qualifications, no minimum food, smoking signs. There may have been others, but that's what I have. So that violation is working its way through. Will probably be back before us for us to consider for bar group, but I'm concerned that the owner of Ice Bar and Lounge is operating a different business without having a manager's questionnaire. I will note that that bar group business LLC is dissolved administratively under the Secretary of State's office, so it doesn't legally exist. And back to the ice bar, that has a Department of Revenue tax hold on it, so it can't be given an extension because of the tax hold. But I do have problems, even if they clear up, when they clear up the tax problems, with the owner operating other businesses that are not associated with her. That is not permitted under our laws and regs, and we do not take kindly on that happening. I am going to move that RR 4939282 Ice Bar and Lounge LLP not get an extension request.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I just like the record to show that I am scheduled to hear matters regarding Ice Bar and pretrial on the 23rd, and I think a trial on the 28th. So I will be abstaining from voting on this.
I will note that we received information from the attorney for the permit holder. The denial followed multiple failures to appear for local board. The information from the attorney addressed one of those instances of failure to appear. I think with the hearing on the 28th, that information can be presented there, as well as information why the other instances where we had clear communication, there also was not, the permit holder also didn't appear for those hearings. But I think that can be addressed at the substantive hearing on the appeal. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
Abstain. I will show that as a 3-0 with one abstention. All right. Next matter for discussion is RR 4538308 TSA Properties. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from Lake County. We were waiting for a corrective action plan due to a violation. We have received a new corrective action plan. They did have a violation. The violation was related to local police runs to the business over the past, I think it was year and a half. I will note that of the police runs, I saw 22 that included criminal activity, and 15 of them looked to tie back directly to the bar. And those 15 appear to be connected to possible overservice. And sales to intoxicated persons. They were, things that intoxicated people will do, and trespassing and battery and other criminal activity. I will note that this was a recent violation that has been issued to the business. They weren't represented by council, and I think they've hired new counsel now. And I checked with our prosecutor yesterday, and he said that he and their new counsel are in discussions on this violation. I hope that it will be settled soon in some manner. While I don't like a business like this being able to continue, I will note that the violation has not been settled yet, and we need to give them a chance to work through that. With that, I am going to allow a continuation, an extension until November the 18th. Due to their criminal activity, I would also like excise to look at this business and see if they need to be placed on PACE. Seem to be somebody who is having problems and may need some further attention if they're going to be able to remain in business. So extension until November the 18th, have excise look and see if they need to be on PACE. Get a status report back on November the 18th, see what movement they're making on trying to settle that violation. And that is for RR 4538308 TSA Properties LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to comment, at least in my records, and I don't know about the other commissioners, I have 2 different corrective action plans. There are 10 paragraphs in each, but the language in them is somewhat different. For instance, in number 3, one says our staff is not allowing any patron. In another, it says our staff does not allow. And while that would be minor, there are other issues like that. And my problem, frankly, is they're not dated. They are signed, which is what our rules require, but they're not dated. I would just remind permittees that when they have correction action plans, they not only be signed, but they need to be dated. I can't tell which is the more accurate of the two. I will assume that the one that says our staff does not allow rather than is not allowed. So while there may not be much difference there, in comparing them, there are several paragraphs where the language is different. So I'm not sure which one we would say is the more up to date since they're not dated, but
This was the more recent one, that's the latest one.
this one and not that one.
We received the first one and it was rather vague.
Right.
For instance, they said, we'll close 30 minutes early.
Right.
But they didn't tell us what their normal closing hours are, so we didn't know what time they would be closing. And then they talked about over service. We'll let management know. It's like, well, what's management gonna do when they get the report? So they did update their corrective action plan. I will note that they did update it. It is fairly passable. They definitely could do a much better job on their corrective action plan than they did.
But they have to date it. You'll
So,
me that.
yeah, let's amend the motion and ask by the next meeting that they update and make any other clarifications they can on the corrective action plan to make it clear what they're doing to address their violations.
I'll second the amendment.
That would be by the November 18th date.
But still the extension.
Correct.
All right, so
With that, November 18th.
any further discussion on the amended motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Show that that passes 4-0. Next item for discussion is MM 4830635 Cultured Urban Winery LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is from Anderson. They did expire on June the 30th. We did give them a first extension from July 2nd to September the 30th. They did come back before us for a second extension, and we approved that once the property tax has been received. Well, actually, we approved it once we received their F1, which is the property tax form. And now they're asking again for a second extension. I didn't see where the property tax form has been submitted to us. As soon as they give us proof that the property tax document is to us, then they can have their second full 90-day extension. And that is for MM 4830635 Cultural Urban Winery LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is RR823445 Gravity Gardens Brewing Company LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is a River Lake permit down in Evansville. We were waiting for some documents from them. They have now gotten those to us. They are before the local board on November 25th, and they have no violations. I moved for a full 90-day extension for RR 823445 Gravity Gardens Brewing Company LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is RR 49400887802 Corporation. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this permit expired July 21st of 2025. They did receive an extension on that date until October the 19th. They haven't had anything since October the 19th, and we were waiting for insurance and property tax. On the insurance document, there was a very slight address issue. They need to clear that up with us, possibly need to update their address with us. And property tax is still outstanding. So once they clarify their business address with us and get us the property tax document, I move that we grant a full 90-day extension for RR 49400887802 Corporation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 0936799 Nellis Bar and Grill LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is in Logansport. This is a 210 permit. They did expire July the 18th. We just did issue an extension from that date through October the 16th, and they have been issued a letter of authority through today. They are scheduled for the local board on November the 19th. I will note that they have had 3 violations since last July. Last July was for employee permits and prohibited type 2 gaming. August of this year, unauthorized beverages. And September this year, again, authorized beverages. They're buying from a local liquor store instead of a distributor. I think they're having a problem right now buying from a distributor. That still doesn't relieve you from our laws. You have to buy from a distributor. Since these offenses are not related to violence, they're not underage, they're not over-serving, it's an administrative problem. I'm going to move that we do grant a 1-month extension until November the 18th of 2025. I felt the last violation is outstanding. They'll make some movement to satisfy that, outstanding violation with our prosecutor. And then they would be, ready to be, with their extension to go for the local board to be renewed. And so, 1 month to November the 18th for RR 0936-799 Olfanellis Bar and Grill LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I'm going to vote against it because of the repetitive nature of the violations. Third time, she's buying from a non-wholesaler. This last time, she lied to the state excise police officer saying she hadn't bought it where she had, when in fact he had a receipt that showed where she had bought it. I will commend the officer because part of the way he knew that it was a violation was because he was aware of product distribution and the fact that one of the products she had purchased was in fact a new product that wasn't available before she went on the no ship list. So the officer, being aware of that and acting upon it, I think was excellent. So at any rate, my vote would be against it.
All right, I will note that we take these extensions seriously, so if she's caught purchasing retail to retail again during this extension, I would be inclined to pull back the extension. But I am gonna vote in favor of the 1 month extension, with the caveats that there be movement on the, third violation and that this get to local board for review of her ability to continue holding the permit in compliance with 7.1. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No,
Motion carries. There is one extension to add to the agenda. That's for RR 1832416 Lindbergh Brothers LLC. Can we take it by consent to add that to the agenda?
Consent.
consent.
All right, we will show that added and I will open that for discussion.
Yes, this comes to us from Muncie, Indiana. It did expire on July the 27th of 25. It does have a DOR hold on it, a Department of Revenue hold. As soon as that is cleared, then I authorize, or I move that we authorize a 90-day extension for RR 1832416 Lindbergh Brothers LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Here, Alan, can I ask a question? Received a question during the last couple of minutes about Plio's nightclub, RR 4536364. The question was whether the extension was continued and reset until the 28th, or whether the full renewal would be heard on the 28th, or the renewal would be heard on the.
So no extension, no
We
renewal.
continued the entire thing until November 4th.
Got it. Okay, that's the question.
Yeah.
Answered. Thank you very much.
Next, on inactive files, 22 permits to be made inactive from the October 7th meeting. We received one renewal that was for DL 6933576 Casey Marketing Company. Can we take it by consent to remove that from the permits to be made inactive?
Consent.
Consent.
All right, we will show that removed. We also received a request from an attorney representing someone claiming to be a buyer for permit RR 4534038 David Gonzalez Business Incorporated, asking that this be continued a month for them to attempt to get the permittee to renew. I will note, we really struggled with the 23 to 24 renewal with multiple pieces missing, had to ask for each one separately. So that was already stretched out. Then they expired on December 23rd of 2024. We have not received renewals. We sent the expired permit letter July 3rd of 2025 and have still not received renewals. On the flip side, I have sympathy for maybe an innocent buyer here that is trying to get something done where they've taken action on behalf of their business. But they also, similar to us, can't get the current permit holder to respond or take action. So I guess with that, I would move that we not remove the permit from the list to be made inactive since we haven't received a renewal, but continue consideration until the November 18th commission meeting, at which time, if we haven't received a complete renewal, including all additional forms, documents, fees, that we would then vote on whether to make the permit inactive since it is more than 6 months expired.
Second.
You just moving it to putting on the list for
Yes.
November 18th.
Moving it to the list for November 18th. Yep. It's been moved and seconded. All those, is there any further discussion?
So are we voting on moving this to November 18th? We're not voting on the rest of them to be made dead right now, right?
Yes, just the continuance of the RR 4534038 to consideration to be made inactive on November 18th.
Thank you. Did we call for a vote?
No, I called for any further comment, but now I can call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now that takes us to 20 permits to be made inactive that were previously announced at the October 7th, 2025 meeting.
I incorporate by reference these list permit applications to be made dead today. Hereby move for approval of the same and inclusion of this list in the minutes from today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
I have a
Aye.
question. I have a
Yes.
question. Can we add to that and we mean it? I'll vote aye.
You have a citation for that? I mean it. Is that
Uh,
in code?
Yeah,
Well, I think it's important that you have to renew your permit within 6 months of expiration, but here we are. Announcement of the 19 permits to be made inactive on the November 4th, 2025 meeting. This is really your final and last notice that these permits will be made dead in addition to the ones we've already mailed you and emailed you, and you know your expiration date. Announcements, no escrow hearings in December. Not seeing any other items on the agenda. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
so move.
I second that on the condition that we also welcome back Commissioner Jones and wish him safe speed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
A third that I don't know, my question.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. We are adjourned.